Hi guys, in this video I will go over the top PvP teams for free-to-play or dolphins. It will include Stall, Burst, Energy Cycle, Alna, GBs, Ainz and Mauler Invade. I will also include which enemy teams they are great against. But first I want to show you my 5 teams. I'm using Mortas Ainz, Skrek Cycle, Alna GBs, Mishka Burst and a budget Stall. I'll show you all these teams and some alternatives and subs. First I want to cover the Horn of Inspiration. At first when I read this I thought that it was a buff to stall teams, but now that I read it again I think it's actually a nerf, that this will make fights shorter because all the healing teams won't do enough damage to kill the enemy teams unless they have a lot of CC to negate the damage reduction. I don't think it's going to be a huge effect, but I think it will definitely make some fights shorter because the healing teams are getting a bit nerfed by this. First up we have the Energy Cycle teams, and the meta is currently with Healers, which is quite expensive as you need Lucretia and Healers. The core is Aces, Twins and Rowan, so you can try with using Skrek instead of Healers or try with the budget cycle. All you need to do is make sure you have some DPS and not just support heroes. It's not really a budget cycle, as you still need to have 2 ascended Aces and Twins. Let me give you some subs. As you can see, you can use Odin, Daemon, Eloard is also a great choice, and Mishka and Talene. Of course, the higher investment the better, but these heroes might make it work for you. So Energy Cycle needs to get going, it needs to start up, and that's basically versus slow stall teams or weak burst teams like Firepool. You can also use it against better burst team and Ainz team, but it requires you using the Skrek cycle or the one with Healers to do that. Next up we have the burst teams. I believe the current meta is Mishka Burst, but with a star instead of Lawson. The whole point of this comp is to kill the enemy before they even think of damaging your team. Core heroes are Aaron, Luca and Sora. But actually you can see the Mishka Burst did not have Aaron in it. Some key investment is Sora's 3 out of 9 furniture, which delays the entering of the enemy team on the battlefield, giving you significant advantages. But if you don't have heroes like Sora, you can also try with heroes like Athalia, Nakururu, which is maybe also hard for free to play. And as you can see, you can also use this Twilda and Gwyneth, Cass, Sarah, Alna, Lucretia, really any hero that has an effect on the early game of the fight, like Respin. You want to use your burst team against the enemy's Energy Cycle, Firepool or Graveborns for optimal win percent. You can also make your own Firepool with Sophia and Titus, and of course Squeer's 3 out of 9 furniture. I recommend that you only use this team on the offensive if you can. It's very weak as a defensive team, but it's almost guaranteed to win against the enemy's Firepool, so that's a good way to use this to climb up to a high rank. Next up we have the stall team. Basically you can go with a core of Thoran, Talene and Flora, but as you can see across these 3 teams they are used to very different heroes. In the weight stall you take the utility of Skrek's 9 out of 9 furniture, and in the budget stall you focus a bit more about the evasiveness of Tassi and Ezio Sturge, but really you can use a lot of different heroes like Gorvo, Daemon, or even the new Flame Boy, Wukong or Nemora. As you can see, you don't need that high investment to make a team work. If you don't have one of these heroes, like for example Talene, you could try with a star or maybe some hero like Mishka with her E60. Other heroes like Thesco, or just put in what makes sense for your hero pool and it might work. You will want to use stall combos versus burst teams. They don't really perform well against many other teams, as they don't perform well versus Ainz or Energy Cycle or Graveborns and Alna, but you can try putting them versus some burst team or Firepool and see if that makes you win some more fights. Next up we have Ainz. Everybody knows Ainz team. First one you can use Mortas. I find that has great success. Second one is with Ezio. If you use Mortis, you can free up SEO for the stall comp. Third is for subs you can use. All of them can make a pretty decent Ainz team if you don't have the full setup. So basically Ainz is OP, you can put it against any slot of the enemy. Sometimes you can put it against the enemy Ainz if their Ainz is weak. Otherwise I try to put my weakest team against their Ainz and use Ainz against their strongest team. Sometimes their strongest team is too strong, like using some kind of Tresnor or Haler's energy cycle team, or even actually sometimes the Graveborn team Ainz can lose. Ainz can also lose against the classical burst team, some kind of solid burst variant. So watch out for those, but you should be able to use Ainz against a lot of the enemy's teams. Speaking of Graveborns, here is the Alna GB's combinations. Classic Alna GBs with Athalia to the left, and then the budget GBs with Hodgkin and Odin. And then to the right you have some subs you can use depending on your hero pool and your investment. Sirius, for example, is really great, but you might also use her in your Ainz comp. This version with Elna and Athalia is really strong. You can use it versus Stall, Energy Cycle, or just the GBs without the Elna and the Athalia. And I also find that if you put the Athalia on Lucretia in the enemy team, you're almost certain to win, at least if Lucretia is the only DPS on the enemy's team. Last, I want to include this Mauler Invade team, or with Entandra. As you can see, you need Screg with this 9 out of 9 furniture. This is not really one of the top teams, or at least I haven't had much success with it, but I just wanted to include it. You might have some success with building this team as your 5th team.